Welcome to MJ Miniature Worlds. I am MJ, and in this video I'm going to talk about monitoring the subterranean landscapes of the terrariums. But before we begin, here are my fur babies. This is Merlin, a big troublemaker, and he is one of my kitties. And then we have Simon here, a very inquisitive, fun cat. And we have Sebastian, who's the shyer of the three. He doesn't like to be filmed. And Yoda, our pug mix. So those are our fur babies. So in this video, I want to talk about a little bit about the subterranean areas of the terrarium. And for filming, filming the upper strata of the terrariums are really not as bad. You can see from the footage of this jumping spider in one of the jars. This is one of the mason jars, so it's one of the smaller terrariums. It's really not difficult to film the upper strata. Basically the camera does pretty well, and there's a little bit of reflection there, but it's not so bad. Now this project, I started this project in order to satisfy my own curiosity about these miniature environments. And I'm targeting mostly the critters that are going to develop within these vivariums. So they're more appropriately called vivariums. There are 16 of them and a few more now. I added a couple of smaller mason jars and such, and I call them my miniature worlds. Okay, so basically that's going to be an important part of the channel, is I'm going to document all the little critters and things that develop within these little worlds. And of course this is going to present some challenges to filming. Now I keep a little whiteboard with some notes, and that's just for me because in reality I am a scatterbrain. And I also have notes on most of the terrariums, and this is some of the information, for example, for Weevil-Haven. And one of the things that I'm doing is I made up this little kind of strata for the terrariums, and this is not official terminology at all, but basically I'm just some notes on how I stratify the terrariums so that when I'm filming, I have a way of identifying the different regions that I'm filming. And Aquascape is one of these little, imaginary strata that I've developed. And it's more filming language for me to be able to identify the different areas of the jars, right? The different areas of the terrariums. So note keeping for me is actually very important. And some of these are going to be very challenging to film. So I already have a filming video, but this is dedicated to that region that I'm calling the Subscape or subterranean landscape. I'm just saying Subscape for short. And basically what I'm doing now is actually filming by adding a little bit of darkness to the jars so that you don't see all those reflections all the time. There's a little bit of a reflection in this one. This one's an interesting one, but this is the layer. There's a lot of roots here. You can kind of see my reflection in the background as I move things around. There's also a lot of moisture, which makes this region very difficult to film. And you have all these little particles that stick to the glass that are, also kind of going to be seen and can't be helped, really. So this is where a lot of soil critters hang out, and it represents a slightly different fauna from the rest of the vivarium or terrarium. So experimenting with different lighting and giving this a darker kind of feel is going to be some of the focus behind all this. All right, so I hope no one is triggered by this. This is a centipede, and this was a critter that was discovered recently in one of the jars. He's about a little over an inch, okay? And yes, an important thing to say is yes, centipedes all do bite. They are capable of biting. So yeah, treat them with caution. There is a nematode here in this picture, and that's what I wanted to highlight. A very small soil nematode crawling about the glass. Now this centipede, if you see, uh, one of the cool things, a fun, is that those fangs are actually modified front legs. And that's always something that was very interesting to me, is that those fangs are not true fangs. They're not mouth parts. So there he goes, off into the dark. So this critter was discovered in one of the terrariums, and it'll be interesting to see, because these are voracious predators. It'll be interesting to see how he impacts the terrarium that he is a part of. Okay, now these things eat snails, they eat slugs, they eat other centipedes. So whenever filming the subterranean strata, you know, it's much more challenging than some of the moss beds that I try to film. Here is basically the phone mounted on a Scotch mounting medium, and that's how I keep the phone steady on the table in order to film. That's one way I use to film the substrata. Another technique is to use my blue Tupperware and technique, and then darken the terrarium at night with the blue light, that is emitted through the Tupperware lid. And so then just lower the camera, instead of on the surface of the terrarium, the mini landscape, I go down further to the sides of the glass, where the subterranean region shows. Okay, so the substrata, basically. So that's another technique. Basically, one thing I do as well, and this is a cool technique, and yes, I am dressing my terrarium. It has a t-shirt on. But basically with this technique, I can eliminate a lot of the lighting, especially the window lighting, that is necessary, but it kind of diffuses the light so that the glass does not reflect it as much into the camera. And that's important. Okay, so this is how I obtain a lot of the darker images. And there's the phone right there. And it is mounted on Scotch mounting medium. The phone is. So, and then this is the collar of the shirt. And I also raise this up right up to the light, and attach it to the light. And it just creates a nice little area where some of the light filters through to the subterranean level, but not enough that it's like ultra bright. I want to depict this region the way it would be, which is nice and dark. Maybe towards the surface there will be some light reflecting through, but most of this habitat is very dark and kind of eerie in its own way, but fascinating. And this area of the jars, I mean, it creates so much interesting habitat, really, because this is a leaf, by the way, a dead leaf underneath, buried underneath the soil. And the soil creates all this, like all these little tunnels and things. And also you can see the roots of many of the plants. There's a lot of little stones and things like that. So again, this is with the t-shirt over the jar, and then having a little bit of light filtering through, and you get kind of a better view of this subterranean area without all of the reflections. And I can move the jar around and show different areas. And what I would probably do is just leave this, like 10 minutes or something recording. That's how I got the centipede, actually, on one of the jars. So I suspect that anything too small is not going to be visible. You do have Colembala here, and from time to time, the camera would be able to pick those up as little white critters kind of crawling around. So we're gonna see just how many springtails and whether or not this area becomes bioactive. You know, it really depends. I know that there are some grubs and things, some carabids that haven't developed. So it'll be interesting to see if they do develop, you know, if they use these areas of the terrarium. And filming like at night or keeping the terrarium dark for a while so that critters that are used to this area, they're normally very shy and used to very low light conditions. So, here is the leaf. And then I showed the little technique of putting the collar over um you know, the area where the light shines through, and this is what gives this effect. You know, this is how the leaf was highlighted. So it's an interesting technique for sure. You know, um we'll see when things become more bioactive what happens in this area. And this is an interesting view of like a root. There's a root up here, and it's all over. There's quite a few roots, and so and also a few crevices. Those dark spots are all crevices. So this is going to be a very interesting area if it becomes bioactive, and we see organisms that traditionally live in these areas, you know, have very secretive lives. A lot of your detrivores, and I'm starting to find out that chironomids, gnats, many of them will burrow in these areas. Okay, so it is interesting, and hopefully the critter cam can capture some cool critters once things become bioactive. These terrariums are very, very recent. Some of these have only been set up within the past couple of days, and it's been very cold outside, so things haven't quite woken up yet. Now, using a mirror in order to film, I use a mirror and then have to angle the phone in the mirror just right. But basically, I am filming the reflection on the mirror, and now everything has to be clean and all that good stuff. Once I've found my angle, and that's all mounted with mounting medium, then I add this a little bit of cardboard over it to darken everything and kind of get rid of the reflection. And that really shows a lot of promising results. Okay, so as long as those mirrors are clean, mirrors are becoming very important in a lot of the filming that I'm doing with these jars. Okay, and you can see the moment I put the cardboard over the piece, and I haven't edited the photo in terms of contrast or anything else. And this is not a photo, it's actually a video. This is all hands off. So if you want to support my nature channel, all you have to do is like and subscribe. That will really help the channel grow and will get us to some of those more interesting things in the future, like the community tab. So basically in this video, just a few more filming how-tos, and I'm hoping that the mirror technique is going to be, I think, one of my primary techniques for a lot of the substrata filming. Now, one very important thing is that what all these techniques do is they allow me to do everything hands-free. So the phone is not shaking when it's filming. That's a really bad thing about trying to hold the camera. So everything has disadvantages, but these techniques are definitely showing a lot of promise. So all right, folks, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been another how-to filming video for that playlist. Thank you, folks, and we'll talk very soon.